Did you know you can communicate with plants and animals in the new Earth? For animals, that includes both domestic and wild animals, although the way you communicate with each of them may slightly differ. Kara Daniels connects with the consciousness of Earth, not only to speak with plants and animals, but to help heal them as well. And today she's going to give us some tips on how to reach out and connect with both domestic and wild animals. So Kara is back with us, and we are talking about connecting with animals specifically today, domestic versus wild. And Kara, obviously we can talk to either or, right? But is there a different strategy in talking with wild animals? I know might be a little bit of hesitancy, because we don't know a lot about the animal. It's one thing if it's your dog, right, that sleeps with you, that you take out on walks and all of that. But if it's another animal that you're not quite sure of, what's the difference in communication?
Yeah, domestic animals, I would say the biggest difference is, and I'm just going to compare, say, home companions versus maybe livestock or, there's a lot of different layers of types of domestic animals, right? So just for today's all intents and purposes, we're going to just say the in-home companion animal. Usually when we're having these conversations with just pets, if you will, they're so excited to talk. They're just like, oh my gosh, somebody's here. And then it's just like their conversation, they lead the whole conversation usually. Now, of course, every single animal is different and every single animal has their own unique personality. And so sometimes they're a little bit more private and they especially are very aware of what they say because they don't want to tell their family's secrets and things like that. So working with domestic animals it's just so much fun. It's like meeting a new best friend because they're so excited and they've been in the house or with a family and they're just so excited to be acknowledged and share everything that they've been thinking for years, usually. And so opening up the conversation there is really easy most of the time. Now, when working with or communicating with wild animals, it's definitely a little different because wild animals are used to just being looked at, photographed. Maybe they're considered pests and eradicated. And so when you're opening up a communication with a wild animal, they're usually like, what's happening? Why are you in my head? And they actually get really suspicious because it's like, this is not normal. People don't talk to animals like this. And so while they do this and they know that this is a potential, humans don't communicate with them. So there's a little bit of skepticism. And usually I have to plead my case why I'm actually there talking to them. And then once you kind of warm up, it's like the conversation flows. But that being said, sometimes the wild animals are like, we'll come back later because I'm busy. Because they're in survival mode, like they're foraging or they're sitting on their nest. And so they're just like, we'll talk, but not right now. Come back later. And so the approach definitely is a little bit more tedious and just kind of knowing what kind of animal you're talking to. Also, like some of the animals that are considered nuisance or highly eradicated, they actually really don't want to talk to people because we have, as a human, people just don't have respect for them. And so they in turn don't have a lot of respect for us. And so sometimes it's literally like, I just need to talk to you for 2 seconds, hear me out, and then you can go on your way. And so it's totally different communicating with wildlife compared to domestic animals in that regard.
It's kind of so sad. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, when you were telling me that, I was like, but we need to rebuild that trust. Like, Kara, do we need to do that? Or is this just something that it's okay if they go their way and we go our way, as long as we're cordial and not hurting each other?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it's important for people to recognize that they're living beings. I know that seems silly, but people just don't have that respect for all kinds of wildlife. And I do think that we need to recognize that it is okay to go our separate ways in respect and kindness. But at the same time, having these conversations with them, I think, can drastically change our relationship with wild animals, especially those that are causing conflicts or in our house causing chaos. It's like these animals, if we actually bridged that gap, we could have these conversations with them and honestly create much better relationships.
So, Kara, I think I was telling you this before we started recording, but I have what seems to be a special relationship with spiders. Now, this is not the animal or the species that I would prefer to connect with. However, it actually makes a lot of sense. So when we see spiders in our house, I'm kind of like the spider whisperer. And I think it's because I talk to them like I'm talking to you right now. And I explain the situation because usually they're in an area of the house where they're going to get hurt. Someone's going to be scared. They're going to end up crushed, something like that. So it's to their detriment that they're there, right? So I will just talk to them. And sometimes they're outside too, but they're like in a walkway or a path where their web's going to get destroyed. This has happened to me several times. And I know my family thinks I'm crazy, but I go out there and I just talk and I explain the situation. And then I suggest an alternative, like, hey, you're right here right now, but I just want you to know this is a pathway that we always use. And I know it's great for trapping flies and stuff, but it's also not so good for us. So your web is going to constantly get destroyed. How about you go up here because this is also a good area and it's not going to interfere with our life. And, you know, we can both be here. And I always make that statement. I'm like, there's room enough for both of us, but can you just go here instead? And I'm telling you what, they move. They move. I had another situation in our garage where a spider had made a web that connected to our car. And every day their web was getting destroyed because it was connecting to our car. And I said, just go up there. It's totally fine. You know, this is a really big garage. So I just use that as an example because I kind of felt like they listen because nobody talks to them. And what do most people think when they see a spider? They want to stop it. They want to squish it. They want to, you know, they freak out. Yet someone's just taking the time to connect with them. I know for some people it sounds so silly, but it actually is working.
Mm-hmm. I love that you help our little spider friends out. I do the same thing. I'm like, hey, you can't be here. Can you go over there? And they just move within a day. It's so easy. It's like if we would only just ask them.